Okay, hi ladies. This is class number 6. So we were just talking and schmoozing, and something that I asked you before we started was, how's it going with the skills? How have you been using the skills? How have they been impacting your life? So does anyone want to go? Would anyone like to share? Okay, I'll go first because sometimes when I go first, then like it triggers a memory. So, like I was telling you, our water boiler broke a couple of days ago. And the usual way of me showing up is, my husband will ask me, what should we do? Who should we call? Can you call someone? Can you ask them about prices and whatever? And that's me. I show up and I start calling and I do all the work. And this time he asked me about, I found someone and that person wanted $2,400. And then my husband said, I said to him, what do you think? Should we go with them? And he said, yeah, let me call a couple of other guys. And then he called a guy who I wasn't really like a big fan of. I wanted somebody more local because I just needed it done today. Like I didn't care how much it cost. I needed it done today. And he said, oh, let's call this guy. And I said, whatever you think. And it wasn't easy for me. It was not easy, but I'm committed to practicing the skills. And guess what? The guy came. He came not the same day, he came the next day, and it saved us $1,500. So when I follow the skills and also it saved me and my husband like our intimacy. We stayed in that intimate. I wasn't controlling. I trusted him. When I said whatever you think, it was I trust you. I trust your decision, which is the norm is I don't trust you. I know better. I know what I'm doing. We have to do what I want. And that really wouldn't go so well. Also, we're planning a bar mitzvah right now. So, when you're planning a party, there's usually, that, this is how I want things to be. And I have an idea and I'm more creative and I want all these things. And which is fine. And I express my desires, but I let go of control. And it feels so good. Like it feels so amazing. And the things that I want, like not everything is coming out the way that I wanted, but a lot of the things are. Like the more that I relinquish control, it's like things are working out and it's like I'm free. Like I still have the intimacy. I still have the connection and like I don't need to control anyone. And it really feels like the shackles are off. Like I feel it really feels liberating. So I hope that, it inspires you guys.
I could tell you one thing that I really liked, like that when she wrote in her book, that it's not what you shouldn't be saying. There's two different concepts, right? Because like with me, I always say whatever you want, whatever you want.
So
So
it's
she
whatever you
said,
think.
right, she was like, whatever you think, it's not the same. And it's crazy because she specifically said, don't say whatever you think. I mean, do whatever you want. You should be saying whatever you think. And my
Uh,
my thing is always, oh, whatever you want, whatever you want.
But
That's one
right.
thing
what's
I,
what was the difference? What is I don't remember.
So what's the difference? Because whatever you want, it's kind of like just do
you
what you
can't
want. I
please
don't
me.
care.
Yeah.
Right. But whatever you think is that I care about your process. I trust your process, your thinking process. Like I trust what you think.
Mm.
I'd
So
like to share
where,
a story also.
yeah.
So, like just like practicing like the self-care and just like knowing, she was saying that like whenever you become like very snappy at people or when you feel like you're like overwhelmed, that means that you're not getting enough self-care. So I've been like slowly like tuning in as to when that happens. Um, and like being able to just take a break or even just ask for help in the appropriate way. Or even I'm still learning how to like not say like, can you do this and this and whatever, or to say like, I would love if the baby went to sleep, or like um but it really like helps. Like she was saying also, I don't know if we reviewed this chapter or not, but like if you make a vacuum, then like somehow it like you give the chance for your husband to be able to fill it. And I thought that that was so powerful, and it's like it really works.
Yeah, we create the vessel and
So
he's gonna fill it. We're the receivers, right? But we have to create the vessel to receive. If there's
right.
no vessel, then he can't, he can't show up. He can't put into it.
Now, let's say you say whatever you think, but you really don't want, you're letting go of that control, right? So, like, how did you feel
And the
at the moment?
expectation.
Huh?
How did I feel at the moment? I felt
You're eating yourself alive.
I was not, but I was fake it till you make it. It felt very unnatural to me. But anytime we are doing something new, anytime we learn a new way of being, like when I teach math to my students, whenever it's a new topic that's introduced, they're always like they avoid it, they don't want to do it, they want nothing to, it feels uncomfortable. Learning a new thing feels uncomfortable because our brain is literally making new wires. Like, and then the more we do it, like, you know, tell me something that you learned. Let's say, I don't know, give me an idea, give me something that you learned recently.
Driving. I mean, that's not
Driving,
new,
right?
but
In the beginning, it was like it was so hard. It was like, what am I doing? Like, right, we would sit like close to the wheel like this, like we would be so scared to emerge in the highway. It was very uncomfortable. But the more you do it, it's like, you drive with one hand, with your hand in the back, and the kids do whatever, and you're cool with it, right? Because the neural connections are already made. Or like making a new recipe. The first time, it's like you have to keep going back to the recipe book and keep looking and whatever. And when you make it a recipe several times, it becomes like anything. This is a new skill that we're applying. So in the beginning, it feels very uncomfortable. But because we believe in this and we believe that it works when we work it, it kind of encourages us to keep working it, to keep using it. And it's encouraging me for sure because it really is creating intimacy on every level. Ilana's smiling. She knows what I'm talking about.
oh yeah.
It's amazing. It's so nice. Like I didn't know that. All these stories that I usually hear is like, oh, after you're married for a while, like, you only have the sparks like the first year of marriage, and then after the
But
first
it's
year, like
true.
all these stories, but it doesn't have to be bracha. I promise you, it could be. You could really have
But a very different level.
But I
better
think
love.
honestly, I think it's more right. I think it's more because you know each other like, and there's just I don't
Right.
know, it's different. You're on a different level and it's not superficial. Like you've been married for so long and there's like little minute details that you know about each other and like I don't
What is
know.
the word intimacy, right? It's into me see. It's literally like, in Bukharian, there's no such thing as I love you. There's matu yanachs mebinam, which is I see you good. And I always used to make fun of this phrase, but really, matu yanachs mebinam is I see you good. Like
Yeah.
into you, I see. Like that intimacy piece. Like, do you see what I'm talking about? Or does it only make sense in my head?
I mean the intimacy part, but I've never heard the Bukharian phrase before.
So they don't have the phrase "I love you" in Bukharian. They say "Matuya nafs binam," right, Ivan?
Yeah,
So it's "I see you good," like I see you, I see you,
that's deep.
right? Like that's like the biggest, that's like the most connection that you could have with the person when they really see you and they get you and you're connected. How much more intimate can you be with a person,
Right.
right? Okay, so ladies, ready? We're gonna go into chapter 8. Okay. Your husband doesn't want your opinion. I actually posted a little quote about that today. Man may be the head of the household, but the woman is the neck, and she can turn the head whichever way she pleases. We heard this in so many Shalom Bayit classes, haven't we?
Yeah.
what does this mean?
Ooh.
The wife I aspire to be. Let me just put everyone on mute.
Hi. Come. Make okay? No? Okay, come on me.
And ladies, if you want to say something, just unmute yourself. It's just easier because I'm recording the class. Okay. The wife I aspire to be. One of the most powerful phrases I ever learned for showing my husband that I trust him is whatever you think. The reason I like it so much is that it conveys my faith in him and his judgment. I wholeheartedly trust him now, but I didn't always. In weak moments, I occasionally go back to thinking that I'm the smartest person in our marriage. But having thought that for years, I can tell you it's a lonely place and I don't like to visit it anymore. Today, I choose respect regardless of whether I feel that I know better than him. My connection with my husband is a higher priority than needing to demonstrate that I am a smarty pants. When I say whatever you think, I'm choosing to be the trusting, respectful wife that I aspire to be, even if I'm inclined to think my husband is just plain wrong. I use the phrase so much now that it's second nature. That's what Bracha asked before. Like, does it feel weird and awkward? In the beginning, it does, but the more we use it, it becomes second nature. There was a time when my default was to tell John everything I was thinking, including where he was being illogical, ridiculous, or impractical. His response was to withdraw. He stopped sharing a lot of his thoughts with me because he thought I would just shoot them down, and I wondered why he wouldn't confide in me. So all she was doing is telling him that he was illogical, ridiculous, or impractical, and she would tell him how to do things. So that's an intimacy killer right there. So then what happened? He put up a fence, he goes into defense mode, and there's no communication happening. It's not like he's actually taking that ridicule or criticism. He's not actually, doing anything with it. All that does is just create a rift in our relationship. When I realized I had been making him feel unsafe to share just about anything, I felt terrible. I decided to accept whatever he thought was best about anything that was his responsibility. His work, his car, his clothes. So she would tell him what she thought was best about every single part of his life. Then I extended my policy to anything he was handling: bills, tree trimming, tax returns that affected us both. So this is similar to my story with the boiler. Like, really, the boiler, that's like on his paper. And you know what? I created that space for him to show up, and he did amazing. Like, he took care of it, and he saved us $1,500. Using the phrase, "but whatever you think," was a salve to the wounds I had inflicted on my husband. So she says, using the phrase, "whatever you think," helped bring about the healing. It wasn't long before he was sharing openly with me again. I realized that a lot of what he was saying was just thinking out loud. Some of it was just about his to-do. I don't have time to take the car in for the recall right now. Or do you think I should FedEx this paperwork to my client or send it through the mail? There was really no need for me to comment on these musics. Like, sometimes he'll say things, he'll share things just because he'll share things. It's not for us to fix him or to come in and fix the situation or tell him what to do, or you should do it this way or you could do this. So sometimes he's sharing things just because he's sharing. We do that too sometimes, right? Like, we just say things. Sometimes we're processing things out loud, like we're processing our day out loud. If we want him to open up to us and talk to us more, the best thing to do is just to be there and just to listen. And if he asks us for advice, we could say, "whatever you think."
So if he's asking about advice, you should say whatever you think, or like
Yeah, give
give
him
him
that, "I
actual
trust
advice.
you." Because in the beginning, especially because they're so used to coming and asking us about everything, that like, because they're like, she doesn't trust me. She's gonna, let me just, he just wants to make us happy. So sometimes he'll try to make us happy by even putting his own free will and his freedom and his respect on the back burner, because he's like, you know what, I tried already. Let me just do what she wants. And really, in the end, it doesn't make him happy, it doesn't make us happy. It just creates that, it's an illusion of happiness. Like how we do things, let me just do it just to shut her up or to shut him up or whatever. And like, are we happy in the end? Or no, we're resentful. So it's the same idea. So when he, for example, like in the beginning, like if you tell him how to dress and how to do different things, he'll keep coming to you. So keep getting back to that. Whatever you think, I trust you. I trust your choice. And really
Even
trust
if he's coming to you though, he's telling you, let's say like about business. Oh, this and this happened, what do you think? So you
So
should say out loud, whatever you think, I trust you. Like what?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah. Because business, is it on your paper or on his paper?
What do you mean?
Meaning, so we're gonna get to that a little bit later, but Laura goes into this idea of what am I responsible for? I'm responsible for my side of the street. I'm responsible for, like, let's say you're taking a test, right? So you're responsible for are you responsible for what's on your friend's paper? No, you're responsible for what's on your paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you put an answer on your friend, like, are you gonna get anything out of it? No, that's her paper. She's responsible for her paper. And you're responsible for your paper. So you have your paper, your husband has his paper, and your kids have their papers.
What if you say whatever you think and they say, I don't know, I'm not sure. What do you think? Throws it back at, do you answer
So in the
them?
beginning, that's gonna happen, but keep
Ask,
reassuring him, I trust you. I trust you. I know that you're gonna make the right decision. I trust you.
can you
Okay.
say like, let's say it is with business, maybe
And when he makes his
whatever
own
you
decision,
think.
honor it. Don't criticize it, because if we're gonna criticize, he can make a mistake, and that's fine. He might make a mistake. That's part of relinquishing control. Letting him learn, give him that opportunity to come into the masculine.
Can
Because
you like refer him to like maybe like what do you think? Say you can say whatever you think, but if you want to ask your Rav or can
so
you
that's giving him advice. Really, whatever you think, let him. That's what builds up his confidence and self-esteem as a man.
where I can't hear you so well.
I said that's what builds up his confidence and self-esteem as a man, is whatever you think, I trust you.
Mhm.
So if he wants to go to a Rav and whatever, that's on his paper. He can make those choices, and our job is to support those choices.
So what if he is asking like he wants your advice?
So if you give him advice and he doesn't take it, it's about, if you do give advice, it's about relinquishing control, means letting go of the expectation of, like, I gave him advice and he didn't take it, so now I have all this resentment again. How dare he? You know what I
No. Can you give them advice and say, this is my advice, but whatever you think is good, right, for the
Yes.
family?
Yes. This is my advice. Whatever you think. 100%. That's relinquishing control.
Yeah. I mean, I had like a situation today. It was like I had major anxiety, but not anxiety, but like he came home from work and then he had chicken. I had chicken, like grilled chicken. I know he's gonna make a wrap with it, but he decided he wanted to make rice. He thought I was gonna make rice, but I was putting the boys to sleep. So he's like, Bracha, how do I make rice? I was like, I can't calm down because if I'm gonna calm down, the boys are gonna wake up. And he's like, I'm like, just YouTube it. When I came downstairs, I was like, house is clean. Clean lady just came. Husband's gonna cook now. I was just getting so nervous. Like he used like 2, 3 pots. I was like, oh my gosh, like the dishes are all clean. And I
So
was
again,
having,
what's in your control about that?
I was controlling about it. I was eating myself alive.
So what's in your control? What can you do?
Just
How
leave the
can you show
kitchen.
up in that situation better?
I don't know. I didn't know
You,
what to do. I
so
was
one,
like,
okay, so one thing is I would love to have a clean kitchen. I would love to have an empty sink. You know, just expressing a desire and letting
right,
go of, outcome. Or if you really want an empty sink, it's either, like what are your options?
right. So no. So when he was done, I'm like, okay, are you done with this? And like right away, I was like, but I was more like psich about it, not like, are you done with this, honey? I'm gonna put it in the sink now. I was more like, are you done with this right now? Okay, like it was like a panic mode.
Because you showed up from a place of fear. So of course you're gonna come up with you were in your survival state. You were not in your so this is how the
But
brain
I felt guilty. I knew I felt guilty, but I didn't
because
know how to.
you were not showing up as the person that you really are. You were showing up in fear mode.
Right.
You show up in
Okay.
fear mode, you're not showing up in integrity. You're not who you really are. You know what I
But if
mean?
you, let's say how would she say it to him? Oh, honey, really love the kitchen to be right. Like,
I would
how
love
would she?
tell him what you want. So what do you want? What's your desire? My desire,
I
your
think he
desire.
already. I think he already knows my desire, so he's gonna do it. But like,
Right. And also he's gonna
but
do it.
more not in a
We're
loving
gonna
way,
go
more of
into
like,
it.
oh, my wife is gonna start barking if I don't put this
Right,
plate
she'll go
inside.
crazy if I don't
So
clean.
you don't
Yeah.
want him to do it out of fear. You want to do it because he wants to be your hero and he
Right.
wants to make you happy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the way that you show up and the way that you ask for what you want, the way you express your desire. Again, bracha, it's okay. We're just learning. This is a brand new language.
Right. I was
So
aware. I was really aware that I was being controlling, but I just didn't
beautiful.
know.
Awareness is the first step.
I mean, I didn't know how to like control myself. So I was like, okay, are you done with this? Okay, I'm putting in the dishwasher. Okay. And I started taking like Windex.
So how do we repair? How do we repair? We apologize. I apologize for being
apologize.
disrespectful when I spoke. We could always do teshuvah. Hashem created teshuvah before he created the world. Did not expect us to be perfect. We could always repair.
Right.
We could always apologize. If I showed up
But it's your
not as the
ego.
woman that I know that I am, I showed up in my survival state or in my emotional state. I was not in my executive state, because I was triggered. It's okay. You're human. You stop. You notice awareness, beautiful, and apologize. When we apologize, we restore the intimacy.
Mm. Okay. I'm really like, I've been working on it a lot, like these small little things, and I do see improvement, but I'm Charlie horse, it's a lot. It's like I feel it's like a
New,
muscle.
Brach, it's new. I promise you, it is a new. It's like, when you go and you work out,
Yeah, that's what
like
it
the
feels.
muscle has to tear in
it-
order for it to grow.
That's how I feel about it.
But that means that you're growing.
But it's a lot of work because I just want to let go, like, ugh, I
That's
still
up
want to
to
do
you.
it.
That's up to you.
No.
If it's working for you, then do whatever works for you. Whatever is
It's
working.
working, but I feel like maybe it's not also making me happy.
That's the Yetzer Hara. That's your ego talking.
It's my ego.
Yeah.
Because the ego just wants to stay in a comfort zone. The ego doesn't want to grow. The
Right.
ego wants to stay small and comfortable and wants to just repeat the patterns, even though the patterns are not doing anybody any favors.
Okay.
Yeah, if the patterns are keeping your intimacy and keeping your house, shalom bayit and intimacy on every level, then keep at it. But if it's not, that's not what you're getting, then you know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
So we're talking about how sometimes our guys will just, just say certain things. It's not about, it's just knowing how to listen. Sometimes it's not about responding or reacting, it's just being there and just hearing them out. Sometimes he was juggling bills as in I'm paying the mortgage now and I'll pay the property taxes at the last minute on Wednesday. Sounds a little dicey to me. but he gets a whatever you think out of that one too. So even though sometimes it feels like, oh my gosh, I need to control this, she steps back and she says, whatever you, if he says I'm gonna pay the mortgage, even though it's like, a day before it's due, she trusts him. She trusts him to do the right thing. And she says, whatever you think. Suddenly, I was telling him that I trusted him, even though I didn't necessarily feel like I trusted him.
Right.
You hear that, Robert?
Yeah, exactly.
Strange. But at the same time, I was showing up as the wife I wanted to be, a respectful one with whom he felt safe to share his innermost thoughts. Over time, I started to realize that I actually trusted him as much as I was saying I did. My words were an affirmation that changed my reality. So we're saying affirmations all day long. Like all these things or these thoughts, they're all affirmations. But if we choose the thing that we want, we say the affirmation we want, it's a fulfilling prophecy. That's what we create. Acquiring a taste for respect. Who is that? Shana? Is
Hi.
that you? Hi,
Yeah.
my love. How are you? So good to see you.
Thank you.
So happy, my love. Acquiring a taste for respect. Not easy to say whatever you think at first. Candy said that when she first said whatever you think to her husband, it felt like sawdust in her mouth. You hear that? Right? That's a pretty uncomfortable feeling. Over time, though, the words helped her gain so much in her marriage that she now says they taste as sweet as honey. If you don't like using these words at first, think of them as an acquired taste. They might become one of your favorites. Whatever you think were the first words that Kathy latched on to from the 6 intimacy skills. Like me, Kathy was in the habit of managing her husband, Doug, and every decision in their household. So he was well trained to check with her about how she wanted things done to avoid getting in trouble later. Like, is that an intimate relationship where you train your husband and he knows how to please you so that he doesn't get in trouble? Like, that's not a husband wife, intimate relationship. That's not what we want. They had been fighting and distant for years, despite, or maybe because of, regular marriage counseling. On this day, Doug approached her in the usual way with some options about their cell phone plan, asking which one she thought they should pick. Kathy used the magic word, whatever you think. Doug was so taken aback that he asked her, by the way, guys, when you use these skills in the beginning, like our husbands are so not used to having autonomy and having us trust them. And they're like, who possessed you? Like, who are you? Like, you really trust me? Like, just seeing their reaction is priceless. And like Laura in her class, she was saying, she's like, I'm wicked like that. She's like, I just love whenever I trust him, I would show up in trust, and he would have like this reaction, like, who's possessing you right now? Like, where's my real wife? She's like, I just enjoyed it so much. So it's really interesting because what happens is that when we show up from that place of surrender and like relinquishing control and trusting them, in the beginning they're also as much as we're uncomfortable, they're also, it's because it's like we've been doing this dance all these years and now all of a sudden we're changing the steps. So he's kind of like, so like I'm leading now, you're actually letting me lead, like what, like how do I do this? So it takes a minute for him also to kind of adjust. So just notice that and give him that space. So Doug was so taken aback that he asked her a second time, no, really, I need to know. I need to know what you want me to do here, he said. But Kathy stuck to her guns. Whatever you think, she said with a smile. I trust you. Things changed that evening. Kathy crawled into the same bed with her husband for the first time in 6 months. He said, gee, you were so nice tonight. Doug felt respected and Kathy felt dignified about having faith in her husband instead of telling him what to do. That night was a symbolic turning point in the beginning of a new, more intimate relationship that they still enjoy more than 20 years later. That's exactly what we were talking about earlier. Thinking is different than wanting. Sometimes when I suggest that women use the phrase, whatever you think, they modify it to say, whatever you want. But I see a big difference between those two phrases. Your husband wants to be respected and trusted, but he also wants to know what you want so he can make you happy. When you say whatever you want, what he hears is, I'm not going to tell you how to make me happy. You just have to figure it out. Good luck. So I know it's only one tiny word difference between whatever you think and whatever you want, but to your husband, it is a big deal. If you don't provide the answer, you're making his job harder. So do you guys see the difference in whatever you think and whatever you want? We're the one with the wants. We tell him what I want, and we trust what he thinks. Do you see the distinction? I know it's only one tiny word difference. Oh, if your husband asks, where do you want to go for dinner tonight? And you say, whatever you want, that's not deferring him back to his own thinking or showing respect. That's simply not giving him any clue about what would make you happy and expecting him to figure it out. If the question is about your preference, consider saying, Italian would be great. Like if he says, like, what do you want? What do you prefer? Saying, like, tell him what you want. Italian would be great. Or how about that new sushi place down the street? That would provide him with information he needs to be your hero. Or if you really wanted to, you could say, how about if you surprise me? But when we say that and he surprises us, we receive it graciously, meaning, oh, is this what it is? You know what I mean? Like if that's how we show up, he doesn't want to surprise, like he doesn't want, he's gonna just put up a fence and like I can't make her happy. Well, if we say, how about you surprise me? And he does, we receive it graciously. We say thank you, even if it's not the thing that we were expecting. It's about letting go of expectations.
What if he doesn't want what you want? Like whatever,
He
let's
wants
say
to
he,
bracha trust that he wants to make you happy. So if he asks you, what do you want? You could tell him, sushi would be great, or whatever this
can I
whatever.
say I don't want to stay local?
So don't say don't tell, because when you say I don't want, you're confusing him. Tell him we don't say what I don't want. I say what I want.
I
Get
see. Okay,
clear on
okay.
what you want. What do you want?
Okay, see what I want. So where do you want to go? Okay,
I would
something
love
different.
so
Maybe the five towns, I don't know, or Brooklyn or the city, I don't know, whatever it is.
so try to be a little bit more specific. You don't want to,
Well,
you meaning make it as specific as possible. Try to think about it beforehand. Like, what do you want? Try
right.
to think like what are some restaurants that I really want to go to? Like I have some restaurants, like for example, my friends were talking about the paprika, this like whatever. So it's like on the top of my list. Like so if my husband would ask me, where do you want to go? I would say I would love to go to paprika.
Right. But let's say he doesn't like driving far or like whatever it is. So you have to be considerate
So
of what
don't
of
worry,
what
that's
you
not on your
want.
paper. That's on his paper.
Yeah?
He could always say no to you. But you
Right.
should still express your desire in the way that inspires, because his job is to be your hero and make you happy. But the only way he can do that is if there's connection between you two. If there's, if he feels threatened in any way that he's going to be corrected or reprimanded, or a shield goes up and he can't show up for you because he's too busy defending himself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
So I think that was a good example with the restaurants, because I feel like we could all relate to that, or anything else, right? That's also a way of expressing your preference to say, how about you surprise me? In order to feel successful, our husbands need to know what we want. If we don't tell them, they're stuck. They don't really know which direction to go. They have no North Star to navigate by. This is how Hashem created us. We're here to express our wants and desires, and they're here to fulfill them. When your husband asks for your preference or desire, figure out what it is and let him know. Or you could say, "Can I think about it?" You know, if you need a minute to think about it, like literally just say, "Can I think about it?" When he's making a decision for his own life or for something he handles for both of you, that's a good time to defer to his thinking. Hillary learned this the hard way when her husband asked her what movie she wanted to see, and she said, "Whatever you think." In that case, he was asking for her preference because he may ask you for your preference. Like, let's say he buys you jewelry and he asks, "Do you want this necklace or do you want this necklace?" Like, he's asking you for your preference. So it's okay to say, "I would love this specific one." There's a time and a place. But again, this is a new language, and the more we practice, we'll get good at it. It's new. So just remembering, I'm gonna post it in our group also, how to respond to a preference and how to respond to what's on his paper. In that case, he was asking for her preference, but she didn't give it to him. Instead, she essentially said, "Let's see a movie you like." So left to his own devices, her husband picked a prisoner of war story with plenty of torture scenes, which Hillary found depressing. Maybe she didn't know exactly what she wanted to see when he asked, but it's too bad she didn't at least say, "I would love to see a comedy." So like, let's say you're going out to eat and you know for sure that you don't want Mexican, you want Italian or whatever. You could say, even if you don't know the exact restaurant, at least like narrow it down to what you want to eat and then let them choose the restaurant. Listening 101. Here's a concept that was quite shocking to me at first. I can listen to my husband so that he feels really hurt without agreeing or disagreeing with him. Honestly, this idea completely changed my life. I had previously assumed that if he said something, anything, it was up to me to say, "You're right," or "Yeah, that makes sense." Like, whenever he talks to us or opens up to us or shares something with us, like, we feel like we have to add something. We have to say, "Yeah, you're right," or "Yeah, that makes sense," if I agreed. But if I didn't agree, I thought it was my responsibility to say, "I think you're looking at this all wrong," or possibly, "You don't know what you're talking about." Like, meaning like we have to add our opinion and our 2 cents. I don't have to agree or disagree. I don't have to weigh in. I don't have to share my experience. I don't have to do anything but listen. And the phrase that helps me do that best is, "I hear you." We all have a deep need to be heard and understood. Listening to your husband is both a form of respect and a fundamental part of loving him. The phrase "I hear you" is so fantastically neutral and at the same time so validating. It does the job beautifully. It says, "I'm listening to you. I'm here. What you say matters and nothing more." So by the way, guys, the more we practice this, they like we kind of modeling it to them. So then they don't even notice it and they kind of start doing it for us. And then they start like just listening and just saying, "I hear you." So however we show up, we're modeling. And then whatever we give, like when we give respect, we get respect. When we give that attention and that validation, we get it back. It doesn't happen overnight, doesn't happen right away. We don't expect it, but it's just a natural consequence of just showing up this way. We all have a deep need to be heard and understood. Listening to your husband is both a form of respect and a fundamental part of loving him. The phrase "I hear you" is so fantastically neutral and at the same time so validating. It does the job beautifully. It says, "I'm listening to you. I'm here. What you say matters and nothing more." I started out saying I hear you to my husband, and I soon found myself saying it to my sisters, friends, co-workers, parents, and everybody else as well. Can you imagine like just having a conversation with someone and just really, really being present and just listening to them? How powerful is that? It affects every relationship. A lot of times people are speaking not because they want our opinion or our advice. They just they just want to process whatever happened, and they just want to be heard and validated. So just listening and saying I hear you is super, super validating. Or like with my kids, sometimes I'll ask them, do you want advice or do you want me to just listen? And it's like a very powerful connecting way of communicating. I enjoy deeper connections with everyone I love, and I notice many of them echo the same phrase back to me. It's not always easy to listen without a comment. I hear you and and nothing more. Also, I wanted to actually do this exercise, but I guess we'll do it at the end of class. I wanted to do an exercise where I pair people up and you talk to each other for a couple of minutes, and then the other person just listens without commenting and just hears you, and just to see how does that feel. So we're gonna do that. I'm kind of directing the exercise here. So whoever's watching the class, you could do it with a friend, but we'll do it later together as a group. I may not completely it may not completely come naturally to you to say, I hear you to your husband. A lot of women find it challenging to ignore the opinion or knowledge that pops into her head when her husband is talking. It takes some patience and maturity to choose to listen. So this concept that Laura and the Empowered Wife group that I'm in, the women talk about, they talk about duct. So a lot of times we want to say something, want to jump in there and just like duct tape. Like imagining like a duct tape flies in and just duct tape. A lot of times it's better to say nothing than to add something. And if we do want to say it, if it's not helpful, if it's not going to increase our intimacy, like think, is it coming from a place of fear or is it coming from a place of faith and connection? Like what I'm about to say. A lot of times we get triggered and like, I need to say, I need to control. It's like, it's a controlling behavior. So just like duct taping a lot of the times and then expressing it to a friend or expressing it to journaling about it is better than ruining that intimacy, than coming in and controlling and kind of, you know, breaking the intimacy that we built up. And sometimes the duct tape doesn't come fast enough, and then I have to apologize. And this is just part of growing, right? So yeah, it doesn't come naturally to a lot of us because we're just used to saying our opinion and telling them exactly everything we think about. It takes some patience and maturity to choose to listen. One of the coaches on my team recently said, I have a student who really hates the phrase, I hear you. And she's asking if there's an alternative. Yes, I said. Tell her to try whatever you think. Honoring your inner smarty pants. Naturally, neither of those phrases is easy to say when you're thinking, I know the answer. I'm right in this. I know the answer. I'm right in the situation. I can fix anything, save time and money, and help him be more efficient. Of course, you always have the option to just say whatever you're thinking, your opinion, your advice, your fears. But I found that inclination isn't as satisfying as I expected to be. For one thing, I don't always know what's best, even if I think I do. I'm an expert on my own life, and my husband is the expert on his. My nephew is the expert on his life. My mom is the expert on hers. And no matter how invested I am, no matter how much I want the world for them, I don't really know what's best for them. Only they do. And the same thing comes for our older children. Hearing myself say, whatever you think, and I hear you, is a good way for me to remind myself that I know only a little. Getting to hear what my loved ones are really thinking about and what matters to them is the prize I want most of all. The honor of hearing their vulnerability because they feel safe confiding in me is worth forgoing the pleasure of saying something really smart in that moment. I didn't like the idea of saying, I hear you. I wasn't excited to say whatever you think either until I tried them. I loved the responses I got. It was so empowering, and I never would have gotten there without those magic phrases to rely on. Will they work for you? You're the expert in your own life, so only you know for sure. But consider giving them a try and see how it goes. Try, experiment, see how it goes. Your desires are more powerful than your opinions. The other thing to ask yourself when you're really tempted to give your husband your opinion is, what is the outcome I want? As a wife, expressing your desire is always going to be more powerful than debating or disagreeing with his thinking, which is disrespectful.
What?
Then she gives an example of
Where are you going? Okay.
she gives an example of a woman, but you could read it yourself. Here's another example of the power of expressing your desire over giving your opinion. Dinner was on the table and Ruth was hungry, but there was no sign of her husband. She found him in the basement with their washing machine, which was broken and filled with water. He was trying to bail out the water using an old laundry detergent container with a narrow opening. Ruth's first thought was, this is going to take forever. She was tempted to tell him her opinion, that he should stop doing it that way and get a better container. But that would have been disrespectful. Like, we see him doing things his way, and we know that I know better. I have a better idea. Let me tell him. Duct tape. Let him do it his way. Instead, she asked herself what she wanted, and the answer was to eat. So she said only, honey, I'd like to have dinner now. Her husband looked up and said, yeah, you're probably right. This isn't very efficient anyway. It would probably take forever to do this in this way, and I can do it later. With that, they went upstairs to have dinner, free of tension and bickering, all because Ruth treated her husband with respect. So this is where we stop. Oh, we're up to chapter 9. Okay, beautiful. I think we got a lot of great nuggets, and I'm really excited to hear how you guys will be experimenting with whatever you think, and I hear you. What do you think? Doable? I muted everyone, so no one can.
Yes. I think it's doable, but it's gonna be a
Yeah, it's
journey.
new. It's
I
new, and I'm willing to learn, right?
Right.
I've been experimenting with the I hear you also,
Mm-hmm.
and that's also been helping me because like you said, like or like the book was saying that like I just feel like I need to give my 2 cents because I want the other person to feel heard. So like I feel like I have to say something, you know? But just saying like I hear you just validates them. And so
Yeah. Okay, so let me okay. Thank you so much for joining us for this class, and this is where we end. I can't wait to hear your wins. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Irina, for your time. Maybe?